Okay, so the whole point of Talkaoke is kind of up to you to decide what you want to talk about. Could be absolutely anything. Anyone got anything they want to get the ball rolling with? Any thoughts, comments, observations, suggestions, questions, ideas, interjections? Nick?
I would like to enter in a laboratory to work.
Yeah.
So this is the purpose of my presence here.
Yeah.
And so I hope to have some suggestion about this.
Yeah.
But I haven't printed any CV or nothing to put it there in the career corner.
Yeah.
And so maybe I will make up tomorrow.
Okay, well, I mean, we'll see how it goes. And my feeling about it is, if you keep talking about it long enough, then sooner or later, come on, have a seat on the table of chat. We have got Arjun, we've got Nick, I'm Mikey. We're talking about, at the moment, we're talking about careers. And I was basically saying, if you just keep talking about it long enough, someone will give you a job. That's how it worked for me anyway, for Talkaoke. I just started doing Talkaoke, and then suddenly we started getting hired by people like this. Yesterday we were at London Borough of Newham talking about youth safety. So, you know, my belief anyway is you just keep talking and eventually you meet the right people that want the skills that you've got. So you would like to work in a laboratory? What about you?
I think the best course of action would be to visit the people at the stands and then go and speak to them personally.
Yeah.
But yeah, I have an interest in bioinformatics and I hope I can find what I'm looking for at this festival.
Yeah.
That's the reason for coming here.
Yeah.
Sadly, the career zone isn't open yet.
Yeah.
But you know, when it does, then I'll have a couple of questions.
So I mean, you're kind of also drawn by the career zone as well. But I mean, what are you actually looking for?
A career in bioinformatics, but I don't know exactly how to enter that sort of industry.
How to enter it? Yeah. Okay.
I've come here mainly as looking for answers, a way of actually start the conversation going, you know?
Okay. What about you, Rick? Are you searching for a new career?
Just adding to my career.
Okay, come and have a chat on. And look, this person is gonna 2 minutes. Give us 2 minutes. We've got Arjun, we've got Nick.
I'll be back.
No. We need you. Because we're talking about careers. Have you got a career?
I do. I hope so.
Yeah. What is your career?
So I work as a product manager with Oxford Gene Technology.
Yeah.
Since about 4 months.
Yeah. I mean, can I ask you, how did you get into the field of genomics?
So I guess at university, so I studied biomedical sciences.
Yeah.
And I was always intrigued by genomics, so I started focusing more and more in that direction. And
you just kind of fell into it.
I did, yeah.
Is this your first employment in genomics, or have you moved on from a different position?
I've moved on from a different position. So it's basically my second in genomics, and I also worked as an editor for a biomedical journal, also mostly focusing on the genomics side of things.
Yeah, because I mean, these people, because we're right next to the careers corner, that's why I wanted to grab you, because these people are wanting to get into the field. Is it an easy field to get into? What's the way in? Or I guess it depends for different people.
It does depend, yeah. So for me, I said, from university on, I've been more and more focusing on it. But I mean, it's an exciting field. It's fast moving. I really enjoy it.
I mean, what level of university were you? Was it undergraduate or was it a graduate program that you came from?
It's both, yeah. And then I did a PhD also, mostly focusing on.
Okay, PhD, yeah. Okay, so you went in from. What about you, Arjun? Because you were talking about what field of study to go into?
So I did my master's in genomic medicine, but I think my main field of interest is in academia, so I don't think I'll be going into anything clinical or anything industrial just yet. But like I said, I need to first make the foundation and then build upon that.
Would you do a PhD?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah?
Yeah, but finding the right, first of all, choosing what course you want to do for picking a disorder, then actually understanding what parts of the research into that disorder would benefit my career and also benefit whichever establishment is willing to give me the opportunity to do a PhD. So that's what I really want to find out now, is how to actually create the foundation to do so.
Yeah, so how to get that PhD going. Yeah.
Well, I tried to enter already, but the system of the university is kind of tough.
Thank you. Yeah.
So I didn't have the chance to get the degree because the university wasn't helping.
Yeah.
And I had the money, so I work for the NHS.
Yeah.
And the NHS is funding some programs.
Right. Would they pay for you to go and study? They would.
Yeah, because it's impossible for me to leave my job and to have just university because a secondary degree requests.
Come and have a seat on the table of chat. We've got two fantastic people, but we want to get more. We want to get more of a groundswell going. And we're kind of talking about, at the moment, how to get into the field of genomics more from an academic perspective. How hard is it? The funding's there from the NHS.
For the bachelor, you have to go for the full course, so not part-time, and so it's impossible.
Okay,
for the undergraduate, you can do it part-time.
Right.
So the NHS allow you to skip the bachelor.
Will they actually pay for it as well?
Yeah.
Okay.
If you apply, they pay. I had the payment, but I hadn't the course. So
right. Okay. So you've got the money, the backing, but no course. Okay. What about you, Rick? What's your
expertise?
What's your career path? You don't have one?
I don't have one. It's all over the place.
How come? I mean, you seem like an intelligent, clever guy.
It's just too many hands and too many pots, I guess.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, you feel like you've got no career whatsoever?
No, I have got. I'm based more on the arts side of things, so less science, more arts, I guess.
Yeah.
But yeah.
How does it? What's life like in the arts? Have you got a degree, a postgraduate degree?
Yeah, I've got a H&D and a degree.
Okay.
So yeah, I mean, I like to do a master's, but the costs of doing a master's, you would never sort of get back, kind of thing. Okay. You would pay for it, and you would never get it back in the arts, kind of thing. So you do it to improve yourself and your skills and stuff, but you might not necessarily get it back for a while. So you just put yourself in more debt for.
This person's going to come and come and tell us who you are. There's no pressure here, but this is Talkaoke Pop-Up Talk Show. We're just early days trying to get a discussion going, trying to, in a way, liven up the entire field of genomics by giving it more of a kind of chatty edge. And I'm not going to get into the genomics debate. Anyway, we're talking at the moment about careers. I mean, should there be more funding for these higher education?
Well, when I arrived in England, they just raised the price of the uni. So it's.
Where did you come from?
Italy.
From Italy. And do you have to pay to study?
I had a degree in psychology.
Yeah.
And I did it on distance and half on present.
Yeah.
We were a group of people that we were sharing our help. So it was working.
But you did it like a correspondence degree in
No,
Italy?
I did an online degree as bachelor.
Yeah.
And we were going to the class, but we were going. Different people were going to different class, and we were sharing the speech and all by internet.
Okay, so you're sharing notes, kind of thing.
Yeah, notes and all the writing of the courses.
And that was in Italy before you moved to.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, is it harder in Italy? Is it easier?
It's tough as here.
Yeah. Yeah.
But you have more time, so if you're not passing an exams, they don't bother because you pay.
Right.
Here, if you don't pass, you finish.
Right. Okay. So there's a bit more flexibility going on there.
Well, yeah, too much because people are saying like 20 years studying.
Yeah. How long did it take you to do your psychology?
No, I did it in time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I took they paid me money for go quick.
Yeah. Okay.
But I didn't go deep.
Okay, quick and fast, but maybe you wanted to get a bit more deep into the research. Was that?
Well, it was not really fantastic, but I'm more interested in this kind of stuff. Genomics, I think, is something that is really...
Why? Why?
Because it's amazing, it's new.
Yeah.
And you start to go into our body, and you can find medication that are not impacting the whole health, but is going to...
It's a very specific, medication.
And it's just better.
Yeah.
Plus, I work in maternity, so I see a lot of people that have disease and have...
What kind of illnesses would you ideally like to work on?
Well, I would like to work everywhere, everywhere, and after make my mind and decide.
Come and have a seat on the table of chat. We got Nick and we got Rick. You don't have to rhyme with these people to come and sit here, but obviously you can. We're talking about careers. We're talking about study. Is it too expensive to study? Is it too hard to get into these courses? Should we be like a little bit more flexible? Or you're saying in Italy it's too flexible?
Yeah, but it's not easy to enter.
Yeah, it's hard to get into it.
Yeah. And at my age, people are not encouraged to study.
Yeah.
So you study when you're young, and after you are gone.
I mean, do you think we should encourage people that are not necessarily, let's say, in their, teenage?
No, here is more easy. It's very, very common that people are back to study.
Yeah.
Rather than.
So they're more
country.
open-minded about this idea.
Yeah, for this, yes.
Okay, because I mean, life is long and we continue learning. Rick, have you got any thoughts on this? I mean, you're getting on a little bit. Would you still go and study?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. I have a friend at similar age who's just completed a master's degree. So he would. Yeah. I think if you can, carry on learning. I don't see why you shouldn't, just because of your age.
Yeah. Come and have a seat on the table of chat. We've got Nick and Rick. Okay. Well, come back. Tell us if you've seen anything interesting. Where are we going to go from here, Rick? Nick? What are we going? Oh, this person's going to come. Yes, you. Yes. I feel we're still trying to get a little bit. Maybe I need like some extra caffeine. I don't know. We're still trying to find out what the big subjects are going to be here today. Well, Nick, any thoughts about what the big subjects will be today?
Well, here there is a lot of sellings and buying about new technology, about Well, it's related. You cannot get out from the business.
I mean, do you think that's a good thing that there's this business?
It's not necessarily good or bad. It's just how it is.
It's just how it is. Yeah. So you think there'll be a lot of deals being made in?
Not here, but some ends are put in advance to have something.
Hello. Yeah, we can sit here. Come on, and don't be shy. Come and tell us who you are. We've got Rick and Nick. What are your names?
I'm Sadaf. This is Rosemary.
Say again.
I'm Sadaf.
Sadaf, all right. Come on, sit down. Come on. At the moment, we're talking about careers. We're talking about what are going to be the big subjects here in the Genomics Festival. What are you here? What's your interests?
Just learning about the European genomics market. We're from a company called Sage Science in the US.
Okay, so have you come here especially for this event?
Yeah, we have a distributor that carries our products and has a booth here.
Okay.
So we're just...
Where have you come from in the US?
Boston.
Boston, okay. I think we've taken this table to Boston and got people talking in Boston as well.
Yeah.
Do you remember? Were you there?
Yeah, we were.
Okay. Well, then you know.
We have a booth there. So we're actually vendors now.
Right.
At Sage Science.
For a couple of years.
Yep. In San Francisco too. Or no, where is it in California?
Yeah, what's San Francisco?
Is it San Diego?
San Diego.
Oh, San Diego.
Well, I don't know. I've never been. They never sent me there.
So that one you should go to.
Yeah, well, exactly. Anyway, so we're just trying to get conversation going, trying to put a bit more chat into the genome. But we're also talking about this question of business and what is the role of business when it comes to informing science. Can they have a positive impact on the science and the academic side? What's that relationship? That was one of the early questions on the table. Any thoughts there? No? What do you hope to get out of today's and tomorrow's event?
So for me,
Yeah.
I'm here partly to support our
Yeah.
distributor, our
Yeah.
UK distributor, but also to find out, it just seems like the UK is a little bit farther ahead with regards to genomic sequencing
Yeah.
in the clinical market.
Yeah. Yeah.
So to hear a lot of people talking about that
Yeah.
and what they've done and where they're going and what the trending is.
Yeah. I mean, to be honest, when we were in Boston last, that was a big question. It's like, how do we actually get these clinicians interested in all the developments that are happening? Because they seem to be so kind of conservative when it comes to getting involved in genetic and genomic treatments. So that was I didn't know that we in the UK were any more advanced, but I don't know, maybe we are. Any thoughts on that, Nick, because you work in the NHS?
Well, but I don't have the pulse of the research.
Is genomic medicine used at all?
Yeah, they started in. I work in St. Thomas's and is related to the genomic project.
Yeah. What
Even
kind
though
of things are they doing?
I would like to know.
Okay. It's all shrouded
It's
in
all apart.
Yeah. Well, hopefully there's some experts and there's some people that can tell us what is going on in the field, because I don't know. Rick, do you know?
I do not know. Definitely do not know.
No idea. So we've come to learn as well, for sure, and we need to learn. Let's have say a quick hello to these people. Did you find anything interesting on the poster so far? Come and have a seat. Help us get this going. 2 minutes. We've got Nick and we've got Rick. Tell us your names. What's your name?
Caroline.
What's it?
My name's Caroline.
Caroline. Okay. So this is Rick and this is Nick. I'm Mikey. I should be Mick really, just to sort of rhyme the whole thing.
That was Mikey with the mic.
Mikey with the mic, exactly. Is it nominative? Was it nominative determinism? Did I become a microphone wielder because my name is Mikey? This is the question. And what would be a good name for a genomicist? Jenny, probably.
Jenny.
Yeah. Anyone called Jenny around here? Anyway, so that's an opening question, I suppose. So tell us what you're doing here, and what about the posters? Did you see anything that caught your eye?
Lots of amazing stuff going on. Incredible amount of innovation, it looks like. From the posters, the first poster that we looked at was about the kind of cancer stuff and target, and just pretty. Don't have a kind of scientific background, so
okay. Well, you joined the club.
Yeah. So it's quite overwhelming, but very interesting.
I mean, that's one of the questions that's emerged from, just from the very beginning here, is that we're all trying to find out more about genomics, and Nick here works for the NHS, but she wants to get more involved in the genomic side. But how do you actually find out about this stuff and get into it? These are some of the questions. Hopefully they'll get answered, maybe by this person here. Come and have a seat on the table. We have got Nick and Rick and Caroline, and I'm Mikey. So any thoughts on that? I mean, are you hoping to get into the field? Are you already in the field?
I work for the Scottish Government, so we're talking from a policy perspective. We're looking at genomics and taking forward a strategy. So just here to. We just found out by chance the event was on. We were down in London for some other meetings, and here we are.
I mean, can I just ask you, how do you think that genomics could benefit Scotland?
I suppose you're talking about precision medicine and targeting people who are maybe not responding to conventional types of treatments. Helps with diagnosis as well. So there's lots of people out there with kind of rare conditions that struggle to actually find a condition. So that genomics is a big player in that. And obviously cancer is huge.
Yeah.
A huge buzzword.
Okay, so I mean, we were talking about this earlier on about the possibilities and the potential of this precision medicine. I mean, how is it actually going to work? How's it actually going to turn into something that people can access?
I think you have to start small and build.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not going to be a big bang explosion,
Yeah.
and I think that's probably what's happening already across the world, Europe and devolved nations, etc. Yeah, there's a lot of that precision medicine actually already on the go.
Yeah.
So I suppose this is. There's this vision, isn't there?
Yeah.
There's this huge AI vision and precision medicine.
Yeah.
And it's absolutely fascinating.
Yeah.
But yeah, good question. I don't know either.
I mean, I think the thing about the small steps is quite an interesting point, because it is, it is that, well, if it's a precision medical cure, then it's only going to apply to a small number of people. I get it's a question of finding those people, making it happen. I mean, you work for the NHS. You're saying
you always have to start from something that is small, but after you can widen it, and you can use for more people, because all of us, we had headache, we took aspirin, and we had some other disease like stomachache, and having just a medicine that is target on you, something that is amazing.
Yeah.
So no more stomachache, just get rid of the headache. So it's simple, and I think it works.
So, I mean, how is this going to work in the future, though? I mean, when it comes to all of our ailments, are we just going to put our genetic material into the computer, and it will just kind of like churn out some precision cure? Some saliva. You just spit into them.
I did a search for anxiety, and I sent my saliva. I haven't had any analysis at the moment, but it's still going on. It was by the Guy's Hospital,
right?
So it was
So
an exhibition.
You haven't had the results back?
No, not yet.
Okay. How long have you been waiting?
I don't know. I think it was this summer.
Right. Okay. So quite a long time for people.
But it was also with random, so I don't know if I am analyzed or if I am the control.
Okay. Okay. So you're in some kind of study where they've analysed your spit. Okay. Would you do that? Would you spit into a computer?
Oh well, if you get analysis of stuff, I guess,
Yeah.
Why not?
But you haven't spat into your own computer. Yeah.
No. Maybe in just bitterness and it breaking down or something. But not.
I was kind of spitting. I was trying to do my tax return this morning before we started. I was definitely spitting into my computer.
And they will check your DNA.
Yeah. Well, I mean, maybe that will work, and if that's how it worked, because the problem was the tax office wouldn't believe that I was me, because I was, I was on my hotspot, and they wanted my passport number, which, I mean, I don't carry my passport around to events or whatever. But maybe spitting into the machine in the future would be a good way to identify yourself.
You already do it with your fingerprint, don't you? Yeah. So, I don't know. Exactly. Maybe there'll be various levels, I guess. Maybe.
I mean, what do people think about? Do they feel happy about doing that? Spitting? Are you happy to spit into your computer? Yep. I said, he's got his earphones in. He can't hear them. Anyway, would you? I mean, what do you think about all of this stuff? Are you happy to spit into your computer, even give a fingerprint or whatever?
It depends what it's for.
Yeah.
Yeah, and how's the information going to be used? How's it going to be stored?
Yeah.
It's just.
I mean, how are the Scottish government kind of dealing with this? Was that the wrong question to ask? Come and have a seat on the table of chat. We've got Carol Ann as a representative of the Scottish government, and we've got Nick, who's representing the NHS, and Rick, who's representing the People Speak and Luton Culture as well. So come and have a seat. Give us a couple of minutes. What's your name? Camilla.
Yes.
So at the moment we're talking. The question on the table is: would you spit into your computer?
What?
Would you spit? Basically, well, Nick has given her saliva to be analysed by Guy's Hospital.
Okay.
6 months later, the information hasn't come back. but maybe in the future, it will be a thing where you spit into your computer and it kind of can analyze your what kind of medicine you need. But it could also be a way of identifying yourself.
Okay.
But how do you feel about that as a sort of common practice? You think it will happen? Will it be like that? Your computer will just have a little kind of spit vial for you to spit into?
I'm not sure, but I don't know, maybe I can imagine that you have at some point a data bank and you have some kind of barcode which you can easily access and your data is there. Yeah.
Are you worried about kind of the cloud knowing about your genetic information?
Maybe it shouldn't be completely open, but I think for research and so on, I think it's very important in a way, especially because this is also a topic. There is so many research about, I don't know, mutations and so on, but they are mostly based in USA and in China samples, and then in the end you don't have a total overview of some other communities like Africa or South America. I come from Brazil, so I'm pretty sure that there is not much valid for us, so the normal cancer mutations and so on. So I think it's very important.
Okay, so you've got different mutations down there in Brazil.
I would guess so. I mean, I don't know. We have some. It's different populations, different hereditary, and So.
Okay, well that's interesting. I mean, so you're in a way willing to add to the knowledge about, a more diverse set of DNA, and you're happy to spit into the computer. I'm going to take that as a yes. But I mean, where do we want to go with this? Do we want to talk about this idea that all of the research, if it's so specific, it's done on these very specific, almost like Western, Anglophone kind of population? Do we need to broaden that and diversify that out? We can talk about that, or we can talk about this question about who gets access to the information. It's kind of where do you want to go with this conversation? Rick, any thoughts? No? Caroline? This person's going to come and help us out. Come and have a seat, a couple of minutes. We have got Camilla, we have got Nick, we've got Caroline. What's your name? I'm Mikey, we've got Rick over here.
I'm Sylvester. Sylvester.
Sylvester. And one of the things we're talking about is, we're talking about precision medicine, but the issue is, it's precise for the people that the research has been done on, who tend to be like American, Western, European, kind of, a narrow genetic group. Do we need to widen out this a little bit? And if we're going to go precision medicine, do we need to know about all of the different genotypes that are out there? That's what we're talking about at the moment. And how are we going to make that happen? I know it's a big question.
I'm just joining in, so I mean, feel free to.
I mean, what can you tell us what you're doing here? What's your interest here? I mean, you've got no interest at all in Talkaoke, but I know that. But in the festival,
I'm observing.
You're observing, so you're finding out more information.
I
mean, what we're talking about is this idea in the future. Will you actually be just spit into your computer and some artificial intelligence will kind of like, churn out some precision medicine response? You may not even know that you're ill, but your computer will tell you that that you need to take some kind of medication or do something. I mean, what do you think about that future? I mean, that's really what we're talking about. Caroline, you're going to say something?
It's absolutely blue sky thinking, isn't it? I mean, it's incredible to think about that. And you watch kind of films, futuristic films, and think, gosh, and then these things maybe are going to start to become a reality. So, and how do you gather that information? I agree that you need to do that on a worldwide basis, and you need to because I think it's like you said, I think different pockets of the world will have maybe specific mutations that are due to their environment and etc. So I think it's important that you gather all of that, as much research as you can, and that would help, with kind of profiling of certain diseases and conditions. And I suppose maybe you do that from, in an ideal world, you maybe do that from birth. It's just, and everybody's DNA is held, but then what do you do with it? What if you don't get sick? I mean, I suppose it's not always an exact science. It's an indicator sometimes.
Yeah, so. I mean, from my experience of having these chats at this festival over the years, most of it is just missing information. There's not really that information there. But what about this idea of gathering that genetic information from birth? It would be very useful for these guys in here, but would it be something that the public would be into?
Well, I see in my work, I work in maternity, I say again, so I see that there are different groups, different ethnic groups have different kind of disease and kind of different, for example, iron level in the blood, we have different targets. So maybe we are curing people that are already healthy because we are using only the Western statistic for get our data.
Right. So in a way, we
so maybe someone is not anemic. It's just normal, but we are treating like an anemic because our target is Western.
There's someone that's come and sat at the table without any emotional blackmail. That's amazing. We have got Camilla, we have got Nick. What was it again? Sorry?
Sylvester.
Sylvester, that's right. And Carol Ann, what's your name?
Steve.
And we've got Rick over here. My name's Mikey. At the moment, there's a few things. We're sort of talking about the miracle of birth, and is that the right moment to extract the genetic information from those babies, before they can say no, basically. But maybe the parents will have to say yes. But also, there's this question around that because you've got a diverse genetic population, and Nick, who works in maternity, is saying basically quite often it's the Western standard in terms of like the iron level in the blood, probably other measurements that you measure people against rather than finding out their own what their own genetic makeup is. Would the public accept this genetic screening or whole genome sequencing at birth? Would that work? Any thoughts on that?
It's about the reassurance that the information isn't going to be used to the detriment of an individual. So the population level benefit of understanding iron level variance across different ethnographies is probably going to be really useful, and those kinds of things which we don't understand. But how can you give assurance to the individual and to their family that information isn't then used against? So medical insurance would be an easy example of that being like in the long term problematic.
Right.
So how do you address that concern? I'm not saying I disagree. I think it's a really good idea, but that's the barrier or one of the barriers I think to overcome.
Okay. I mean, what do other people think about that? How do we safeguard the data, make sure it's not used against, to the detriment of people? Also, establish a trust as well. So I mean, it's kind of up to you where you want to take this. Do you want to talk about trust? Do you want to talk about safeguarding the data? Any thoughts on this side?
I think the first step would be like investing in gene banks. That you're sure that this data is using for research. I think this is very useful. But I think from that on to really everybody has to have a genetic code, and who has to access that. I think it's so much laws and regulations that it has to be still worked on, and I think it has to be like a global thing. But if you think about it, for genetic research, you see so much diagnosis tests, for example, for cancer, and then you see like this research, you say like, okay, this mutation or this specific cancer type, or disease is like 50% prevalent, and this other one is like 1%, so we don't really invest in research for that. But maybe this 1% is 1% in this area where you made this research, but maybe it's also very significant in other populations, and people are just kind of letting it go because they don't have the big overview of the real prevalence. How you can really calculate, this is 50% prevalent, but this is just 1%.
I mean, without having all of that data, you don't really know the prevalence. And we, as you said, we're mostly focusing on what happens in the countries where genomics is more developed. But I mean, how do we I mean, there's so many. This idea of a global standard, I think, is quite an interesting idea. Does it need to be global because we're trying to have this global understanding of the diversity of different genes and prevalence of different illnesses and mutations? Any thoughts on this side, Steve?
I think ultimately, yeah. I mean, it just makes sense. Ultimately, the however many billions of people are on the planet at the time when we get that far, then yeah. But again, it's about giving people assurance that the data is going to be used for their benefit and not kind of against them. And I think at large scale, the anonymisation of data is really easy, so you can use it for research purposes. But it's just getting over those initial kind of inherent trust in this. We're very lucky in this country with the NHS that there's a high level of trust in the big bodies that own this or that procure and use this data.
Right.
I don't think that's true around the world.
Okay, so you think there's more trust here than maybe in other parts of the world? What do you think about that? You're from Brazil. Would people just trust the kind of medical establishment in Brazil? Would they just submit their data, or do you think they'd be a bit more skeptical?
I'm not sure, because I don't think that I'm from Brazil, but I'm actually living in Germany now.
Okay.
And I went out because of that, because research there is not very
right, so there's not that investment in research.
There is no investment in research, and I think there's a lot of. You also need a country. You need a population which is aware of the benefits of that and aware of the importance of that. And I don't think, unfortunately, the Brazilian population is still there. I think this education on science and everything is very low. So you would have a major amount of population that they will be like, what is even DNA? What is genome? They have no idea. Yeah.
Okay.
So you can't expect them to say, nice, cool. It's really
that's
nice.
interesting. That people don't know even the basic mechanisms. Can you get them to agree on something that they don't understand? How does that work? Okay, so we've got people from different parts of the world. Tell us the story in Scotland. Do people hello, come and have a seat. That's you, yes. Later then. What about in Scotland? Do people trust the medical establishment? Would they be more ready to submit their...
I think, they do. You're talking about the NHS, etc. Yeah, people do trust the NHS. It's what happens after that. Your information, you want an assurance it's regulated and what happens in the future. Because obviously we're talking about business as well. This is huge in terms of business. So, you need to safeguard people's information.
Yeah. I mean, what about this question if people don't understand, I struggle to... I
think it comes down to trust and education, completely down to trust and education. We are saying in the UK, NHS, we are fine. I mean, I just came out from being in hospital for 2 weeks. 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
And coming back to the part of education, if you're not educating people, they don't have the trust. And if they don't have the trust, they're not going to be moving forward with whatever you suggest them to do.
Yeah.
And going back to Scotland again, you said the same thing. I mean, you said, both of you actually said, trust is a key thing here in the UK. But if you don't have trust built into a country, they're never going to take forward anything you suggest.
Yeah.
That's how I look at it.
Yeah, so the trust is actually really
It's the vital part of anything.
Yeah. Okay, so maybe not Brazil, but Germany. Do people trust in Germany? Do they have that trust? Do they have the knowledge?
I don't know. I would say much more for sure.
Yeah. I mean, do you agree with that? That building up the trust is really.
It just occurred to me the story about 23andMe selling their data to develop and create a new drug, and I think that reading what I read just in the general press, there was a lack of understanding about. It sounds on the surface of it like basically that's a private organisation profiteering off people's genetic information, and those individuals not having the opportunity to say yes or no to that, or so even people who voluntarily purchased their own genetic test, so presumably they had a level of understanding, didn't understand how that information could be used and what the implications of that might be, even though it wasn't obviously it was totally anonymised in population level. So there's issues like that as well that further kind of make that issue more complex.
Okay, so even those people that are actually interested in it maybe wouldn't, in a way it's a bit like the whole kind of like data experience that we all use social media and we don't really think about that we're the animals in the farm, we to be milked. We kind of think of ourselves as consumers, and it's the same with 23andMe. I mean, do you think that undermines trust, or is it just something that people are willing to kind of overlook? Is it like getting a tattoo, something you regret later on that seems like a good idea at the time? Come and have a seat on the table to chat. Have you got any tattoos, and have you given your genetic data to 23andMe? So we've got Camilla, we've got Nick, we've got Sylvester, we've got Caroline, and we've got Steve and Rick. I'm Mikey. What's your name?
Michael.
Michael. Easy one for me to remember. We're sort of talking about this question of like, ideally the people around the table and the people in this whole hall would love just to have every little baby that's born get their genome, get it on the computer. But that requires trust and understanding from that population. People don't even really understand the basics of how DNA works or genetics or anything. So is it possible to get that trust? And then you've got companies like 23andMe where it's actually interested parties that subscribe to that, but they didn't understand that their data was also going to be used by the company, and that, in a way, that's how it was funded. So is it something like social media that we're just going to accept and just kind of forget about the fact that data is being used, or you think we're going to be more concerned? Is it like getting a tattoo, that's something that seems fun at the time that you regret later on? Not that everyone regrets their tattoos. I don't know. I mean, I don't have any, so I don't know. But yeah, that's where we are right now. Any thoughts on that, Michael?
Really not on top of my head.
I mean, have you got any children?
No, not yet.
Maybe
in the future.
What's that?
Maybe in the future.
In the future, would you submit your baby to have its genome read if it was kind of considered part of the beginning of a health record?
I would be hesitant. At the moment, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's just, as you said, it's about the trust, right? Like what's going to happen with that.
Yeah.
I mean, you have.
What's that?
You said the word trust again. It's all about trust and education. It both comes in hand. If you don't have the trust, it took him about a few seconds before he decided to sit down, because he didn't realize he wanted to trust you or not.
Yeah.
What are you asking him?
Yeah.
That basic trust is there.
Yeah.
And he thought, okay, you know what? I've got 4 other individuals seated there and a 5th person there. Why don't I sit down here and have it? I had the same thing. I was going through my mind, going, why do I have to sit down and listen to this? Do I trust this person? Is he going to take out too much information from me and use it back at me? You see what I mean? It's the education part. It's the trust part.
Yeah.
And if you don't have both of that together, you're not going to have people willingly coming forward to give the information that you need or provide what they need to provide.
Yeah. Okay. So trust is so important, and as you say,
they have a page at the Genomics England about the data access and the safeguarding, an entire page related, and also a little cartoon. So when I was scrolling about this, I was watching also. I think it's more easy that when you spit in your computer, you will have some crack. You can have an hacker that have fun to crack your code, rather than a research.
Okay.
A research is very close.
If this, it could be like something that was attached to your Mac, and you just spit into your Mac. You've got more. It's an emotional thing. You've got more trust with your own personal device than you've got maybe with the institution at large. Even though Apple is an institution, it is, as you say, it's an emotional thing. Has anyone here got children? Okay. Would you let your children be analysed? Oh, and let me get a final thought from you. You would, yeah. Final thought, Camilla?
English, no. I think that the discussion could go forever. It's such a huge topic right now, and I actually looking forward also for some talks about the UK Gene Bank.
Yeah.
Which people are starting to invest in it. I think the only really successful one right now is the one in Ireland, which is like the whole population, and I think they got to get so much nice information out of it. So I think would be nice.
So the Irish are doing better with their gene.
I think so.
Yeah.
I think so. I really think genomics. I mean, they were pioneers on collecting all this information from the population, and I think they got so much nice information out of it.
Right.
So I think maybe it would be nice to see all the countries get into that too.
Yeah.
For sure, yeah.
Okay.
But like I say, maybe I think it has to be really like a huge discussion of how this data has to be used then.
Yeah. Okay, so that discussion needs to happen with everybody in the public discussion.
I think it has to be some world leaders for sure. Yeah.
Okay, so it's got to be a big public discussion. It's not just good enough to have it around this Talkaoke table, although it is a start. But this has to be a discussion. I mean, is the public ready for this discussion to actually be involved in this debate?
I mean, you've got to start. You've got to start somewhere, and it will start with lots of resistance in some areas, and in some areas not. But it's about that education to build the trust. And education isn't just obviously just formal. This is what it all means, but it's education that is part of that ongoing lived experience. I'm sure when the NHS started, it wasn't universally trusted and adopted as a government body. I'm sure there was a process of
like winning that trust.
And that's the thing. It's got to be won and not. It can't be false in its approach. And I think that was one of the issues with the 23andMe issue, is that it seemed like on the surface they were doing one thing, but then it seemed like there was a secondary motive with it when they first started
so they weren't completely upfront about.
Man, I'm sure it'll have been in their literature and it'll have been in their in the terms and conditions, but I bet it wasn't at the top of the page.
Yeah. Okay, so in a way, we need to be much more explicit about our intentions and what the whole point of it is, and not kind of scared of that, I suppose. I mean, so how do we grow trust? We talked about having this big public debate. That's your final thought, is it?
I'll be back. That's just fun. So thanks.
Okay. Well, thanks very much. You're looking at your watch as well, Michael. So if you need to rush off, give us a final thought and an initial thought.
I was just thinking that as a former scientist, one thing that always scared me was that there is this big split between science moving forward, but also the ethics, bioethics and everything that was time ago it was going to, I think it was always going head to head, at least together. And right now, we rush so much towards commercialization, patenting, and we don't really think about potential consequences. And that's where maybe, I don't think if maybe that's the source, but maybe a step before we allow like a public discussion, maybe we should think about what we could do there before we actually release the information to public, like whether it's worth and what do specialists, professionals that actually are educated in this area, what can be the potential consequences of using this type of data in the future to as much as we can say it right now, as you mentioned, we don't even understand fully yet about the DNA and everything. So maybe it's a little bit too early to make a big wow about it.
Because even the experts don't really know enough about how this is going to work. The benefits or the dangers, really. It's an unknown, and that's a hard one to sell to the public.
So one day we think that 99% of the DNA is rubbish. The other day we say, okay, actually everything is important there. Then we change our mind again, which is fine. It's doing science, right? But the thing is that if we go too early to public with this and try to make assumptions on this, you can go as far as insurance companies trying to do this, to make some. Try to deduce something out of it and create, or I don't know. I could see this going to the public law, and I don't know, people just using this information, which is not even incomplete, but also might be just wrong.
I mean, that's also a good point. Is that what is rubbish and what is not rubbish, and that's something we can spread out to the. That's something that everyone has that problem, don't they? What do I actually throw away and what do I keep?
There's a lot of bias in science. There's a lot of bias in science. Some people tend to prove their theories rather than try to find the actual theory. So I've seen a lot from the bench side, in the lab, how it works, and after that, I have a lot of how to say. There's not a distance, but maybe just I don't trust that much straight away if I hear something about from a top scientist. I always need to double check it.
So there's a lot of hype going on. Is basically what you're saying. And does there have to be hype? And Does that kind of, in a way, undermine the trust when there's so much, so many kind of, earlier on we were talking about these sci-fi ideas of, spitting into your computer and bloop, 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 something comes out that tells you exactly how you're going to, but is that actually helpful, or could that actually undermine the real science when it finally comes out? What do people think? Sylvester, what do you think?
I'm leaving shortly, but I think it needs to be a combination where if you spit into a computer, you get all the information, what's the information going to be used for, how is it going to be stored, and how is it going to be used back at you as an individual, or even an unborn, or rather a born child where they have no say in it, and as a parent you're giving the information. I mean, what's going to happen from there? Would they turn the age of 18 and go, why did you give it, and how can you violate my trust and stuff like that? Yeah. So there's a combination of that, and it's also a combination of the full trust. If something's happened in the past and someone's not very happy with the results, how do you build back the trust?
Yeah.
And it's a combination. You're right, you've got AI at some point 20 years from now, 30 years from now. None of us are going to be sitting down here and talking. You might have a robot that's actually going to be interviewing all of us here.
I'm really looking forward to the robot Mikey.
It might be a robot interviewing all of us here. Yeah. Or it might be a robot actually walking through. We don't even have to come to the conference or event. We might be at home listening to everything, or walking through virtual reality. So there's a lot of combinations can go right here. There's a lot of combinations can go wrong here.
Yeah. But I mean, I think there's a really good point that it's easier to build trust, but if something goes badly wrong, getting the trust back is a lot more difficult. So that's a really good point. Thank you, Sylvester. Okay, it might. Yeah, I mean, it might. I feel like we've kind of.
Why do you think that ethics is still divided from science? Doesn't make sense.
What do you mean by that?
Ethics.
Yeah.
So Einstein studied and developed the H-bomb.
Yeah.
But they didn't think about this. He was thinking it's a new development, a fantastic new development. So why is still divided this? Why a scientist cannot understand which application are they working for?
Okay, so we've got, for example, the particle physics, which I know a lot more about. But you discover these things, and then somebody comes up with an H-bomb. Can you know the consequences? Give us a final thought, Michael.
So much.
Final thought.
A final thought.
Yeah.
Again, just to your point, maybe I have a feeling that just ethics and it is just not as cool right now, and there's not much of an attention there. So people tend to focus on other things like commercialization, or maybe just putting their name out there, and then whatever the consequences are, So ethics is just like it's difficult, and maybe that's why people don't want to. They deal already with difficult things, so they don't want to have another difficult piece.
And it's all about saying, and it's hard enough doing genetics without someone telling you no, you can't do that. Do you know what I mean? It's a bit like health and safety. No one likes the health and safety person.
Thank you. Thanks so much.
Give us a final thought, Carol Ann, before you go. Thank you, Michael.
Been very interesting. Nice to hear some thoughts around the table, and I think it just goes to show it's just a start of a conversation.
Absolutely.
That just needs to that's going to go on for a long period of time, and there's a lot to sort out.
I mean, you're one of these government people. How do you actually get this public debate happening? Is it something that you could get the...
It's about education as well, isn't it? It's about targeting your audience. So there's lots. So there's the research side, then you've got the clinician side, and then you've got the patient side of things.
Yeah.
So my small brain can't work all of that out. But that was interesting.
We can work it out together. Final thought. Thank you, Carol Ann. Final thought. Thanks for helping us.
What is coming in my mind are two films. One is about cloning. They were cloning some models. Some don't have problem with iron and stuff. And the other one I forgot. It was is about the scenario that we can build, and we can go in so many ways. That we cannot expect. So for this, I think ethics have to go more attached to science.
I mean,
this is my final thought.
My feeling about it is, and a couple of my family are scientists, and they just get really annoyed by the ethics committee changing their...
I'm not saying the committee, but it's something that it have to be considered.
Yeah, but I mean, how could you make it a more of a kind of, I don't know, a constructive, a more productive kind of discussion?
Well, they shouldn't be blind, like health and safety. You have to wash your hands 70 times a year, a day. It's not going to happen. But you have to have some rules. And we need them.
Okay, fantastic. Thanks very much. It's time for some more Coca-Cola, I think. But good first session on the boards, don't you reckon, Rick? Any final thought?
Actually, it was funny about the comments about the robots. I remember, I think, on 2 separate occasions we've had robots. I remember robots coming to the table to talk, and they both.
We have had robots come to the table.
It never really worked. It's still a bit of work.
It's early days.
It's early days. There was a person on the Skype, wasn't there? It was a robot that was.
Like telepresence.
Telepresence. But that didn't work. That needed a bit more work on it. I think.
I mean, that's the thing, it's like these things, you know, it takes such a long time to refine it and actually get it right. And in the meantime, you're just inevitably going to have a series of cock-ups. But can we do that with, you know, something as precious as genomics? Can we afford to have all these inevitable mistakes along the way? That's food for thought for the next session. Hello, hello, hello. So, this is the second session. Come and have a seat on the table of chat. My name's Mikey. We have got
Claire from Oxford.
Claire from Oxford. And
Ellie.
Ellie, you don't have to say where you're from. That was just a question of who you are. But it's also good to know as well, to get a bit of context. Come and have a seat. Come and get involved in this. We've got Claire and we've got Ellie and Rick's on his computer. Got 5 minutes, so if you don't mind, I might just go straight to Claire and find out what she wants to talk about. Hopefully you'll want to talk about the same thing, and all the other hundreds of people that join in.
Start listening.
Exactly, so it's got to be something compelling that's going to bring other people in. So what did you want to talk about?
So great talks this morning, great first talks, particularly Nicola Blackwood, lots of promises, fantastic era we're in now. Lots of technology moving forwards. And lots of talk about bringing it to the benefit of patients, but how are we actually going to staff these services? So I'm a nurse. Who is going to deliver these services? Who is going to talk to the patients, take their samples, counsel them, etc.
Okay. So it's a great idea, but there's not really people to do it
yet.
Okay, yet. Will there be people in the future? Ellie, what do you think about this? Have you got any views on this? Do you know what Claire's talking about?
There's not enough people. We need more. We definitely need more people. Even with the 100,000 genomes they've already done, there hasn't been enough people to sort of actually act on the results of it. And so we need to actually use what we've done already before, like going to 500,000. Like use the results that we've already found.
Okay. So use what we've already got. Come and have a seat. How are we going to get the people? Do you know what these people are talking about? Does it
I know, I missed the beginning. Sorry.
Okay, so we've got Claire, we've got Ellie. This is, what's her name?
Rick.
My name's Mikey. At the moment we're talking about all the great promise of genomic medicine, but there's no people to actually do it on the ground.
It's happening because we see the potential, but you know, the genomic counselling profession, where I've discovered this lady is a developing profession. It's a new profession. They're just going with their registration. It's fantastic. I'm looking at where does nursing fit into this. So it is happening because we're making it happen, but it can't happen overnight.
Okay. Well, Ellie. So you're a genomic counsellor. Is that an actual job? Did you just make it up? Because that's what I did with my job. I just said I'm a talk show host, and people went, okay, you're hired. I was surprised myself, but is that what happened to you? Did you just go, I'm a genomic counsellor?
Yeah, no one believes me, and no one knows what it is. But it's really hard to explain what the job is, but I think it is a very important part, and becoming an even more important part of our health service.
I mean, what can you just say? Just what do you actually do? I mean, how does it work? What's a typical day for you?
So for me, I work in inherited heart conditions. So I'm based in a heart hospital, and and I'm seeing patients who have heart conditions running in their families, so I'm involved in talking to them about the tests that they're having done, so they understand what they're signing up for, what the possible results will be, and I'm the one feeding back the genetic results to them, organising the next steps for the rest of the family, which sounds simple, but it really isn't.
I mean, do people get their heads around it? I mean, the previous session we had a bunch of people sitting around the table that all wanted all babies at birth to be sequenced. And then someone else said, well, you know, how are we going to get people to sign up for it? They don't really understand it.
Do they want it? And do they want it? Who's going to have the conversation? You know, should it be a compulsory thing? Who's going to talk to that family about the ethics? What does that mean to them? Do they want to have that done? Do they want to know that information?
And is it going to be more work for Ellie and her colleagues to actually explain what it means? Because that was the worry, really, that no one really understood it. I mean, is that your experience out there in the field?
Yeah, I think we need to question why we're doing that. Is it actually going to be beneficial for people? Is it going to actually be more trouble than it's worth? I think if someone asked me right now if I wanted to have my genome sequenced, I'd probably say no. So you're kind of, it's not really fair to do that to everyone.
Would you submit your children to it? No.
Unless they needed it.
Yeah. So you would definitely be a no. Yeah.
Not a definite no, but at the moment a probable no.
Okay. Claire, I mean...
It's a difficult one. I mean, I think in some ways, if I know what I'm likely to be at risk of in the future, then I can make some health changes. I can maybe start a savings fund to save up for my care home. But on the other hand, do I want to live with that knowledge hanging over me? So that might affect then the psychology of how I live my life. So it's how do we handle that information? Do we want to know our risk factors? Do we not? So I'm not sure. I'm not sure.
Because there is that kind of... It's like somewhere deep in my subconscious, that kind of Greek myth where you kind of can foresee your own death. Is it a bit like that you've kind of got this, you know, this information you don't necessarily need or want, or it's not going to be useful either? And in which case, should it just not exist? I mean, Rick, would you want to find out would you want to get your genome sequenced, and how do you deal with that information if there were risk factors or like a definite, like if it told you
had a definite disease,
if it told you what you were going to die of, would you want to know that information?
Actually, to be honest, I'd be fine with it. I guess, I would be fine with it.
Yeah, you'd be happy with it.
Yeah, so.
Okay, so whatever it was.
What about if it's about risk, though? It's not saying you're going to die of this, as you may, you know, there is a risk of this developing.
Yeah, give us an example, like a 25% of something.
You can't say that much percentage, though.
No, okay.
Or percentage of losing a faculty.
Okay.
Some knowledge sometimes from family history and stuff like that, so there's already that kind of side. You have a sort of percentage chance of getting this from certain family members anyway, so there's that, but obviously there's other things that could happen as well, which you wouldn't know about, I guess. But I guess I would like to know.
You'd like to know, even if it was a bit kind of uncertain. Okay, so you get.
It's kind of like if that's like, I'm definitely. If you start thinking that, I guess, I'm definitely going to have that, even if it's a small percent. Then I guess that will affect how you live your life. I guess so. That is, I don't know. It's kind of a hard one to think about. So if you have to change your life because you might have this at some point, but you might never get it. So
come and have a seat on the table of chat. Yes, that's you. Would you submit yourself to genetic testing? Would you throw your genes into the database? That's what we're talking about now. Ellie and Claire, you're a no as well, aren't you? Yeah. Rick's a maybe, depending, not really sure.
Another question to throw in related to that. Are we going to end up, if we're talking about points-based systems for immigration, will that one day include their genomic risk, their health risk factors? We don't want you in our country because you're going to cost too much to our health system if you're at risk of developing something.
Right, okay. Or even like your offspring might pass something on. Is that how the new point system is going to work? Is that what they had in mind when they were talking about this? I mean, what do people think about that?
Does it happen already? I mean, does the Australian points-based system have anything to do with health?
Yeah.
Does anyone know?
I don't know. Are you Australian? No. Have you been to Australia? Did they ask for a gene sample? Come and have a seat. Anyway, we've got Claire, we've got Ellie, we've got Rick. Okay, give us a final thought.
I'm going to leave you now, but thanks very much. I enjoyed that.
We're here all day, so it's not a problem.
Where are you based?
Barts in London.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, I did my course with somebody from you, I think. Did I? No. Anyway, nice to meet you.
Final thought, Claire, before you go. Give us something to throw in that we could hit other people with.
I think there are more questions than there are lots of questions.
That's okay. Questions are easy.
Yeah, think workforce. Think workforce.
Yeah.
And where's this NHS money coming from?
We had someone earlier that started off the thing saying, I want to get into... She worked in the NHS. Mm-hmm. She wanted to move into genomics.
Yeah.
But there's no pathway.
There isn't yet. So, I mean, Genomics England, Health Education England, it's all got loads of resources on there for training and things. Roles, in terms of genomic roles, I think it's genetic counsellors. That's what you see advertised. I think nursing has got to follow.
Yeah.
There's going to be support roles. Where does nursing fit in? Because I think there are specialist nursing roles that will fit in, but it's not formulated yet. So we've just got to keep talking and keep valuing everyone who's already in the professions.
Well, that's something I know how to do, so I'm glad you're saying that. Come back later on. Come with answers or questions, whatever. Thanks very much for helping us get this going. So it's Rick, me, Mikey, and you, Ellie. Where are we going to go with this conversation? How are we going to make it compelling enough to actually get people passionate and sitting down and getting involved?
Say a comment. I don't think people can hear you very widely if you want to be heard.
That's probably a better thing, to be honest. I mean, as long as people around the table you can't hear us from over there. Oh yeah, that's okay. That's okay. We'll get complaints if we're too loud. Do you know what I mean? That's okay. As long as people can hear us, and we can bring people like this person here. Can you hear what I'm saying? Well, see, that's perfect. Come and sit down. Would you? Just a very quick one. Would you submit your DNA to genomic testing? Would you want to know what you wouldn't? Most people that are kind of in the know say no.
Yeah.
So how are we going to get the punters? How are we going to get the punters to do it?
If I had a rare disease, if I had something that I knew had an etiology that was going to affect me when I was young, then I would want to know.
Yeah.
But I don't want to know if I'm going to get Alzheimer's.
Yeah.
I know people want to plan for their long-term future. One of the dudes I work with, he's got Brugada syndrome. He's got Brugada syndrome. His heart doesn't work properly.
Yeah.
And he says he'd want to know everything.
Yeah.
So I think it's if you're given a diagnosis like that, you realise, actually, I would like to know everything, but I totally wouldn't.
I mean, but sometimes you need to find out. So, I mean,
I'll find out when I need to find out.
Okay, you'll know when you. I mean, do you know about this? What's it called? Brugada syndrome.
Brugada syndrome.
Do you know about? Because you're a heart genetic counsellor. So bang on here. I mean, do you deal with this question?
I don't deal with it a lot, but I think Brugada syndrome is probably one of the ones you'd want to know if you had it, because there's things you should avoid if you have the condition. So there's a lot of people walking around with Brugada syndrome that are at high risk of sudden death. So
what
probably
is
the one.
it?
It's like an arrhythmia, so it's a problem with the heart rhythm. It can be triggered by certain things. So there's certain medications you should avoid. If you have a fever, you're at really high risk. So
it's worth kind of that information is actually quite useful.
It is quite useful. But it's difficult because maybe lots of people are walking around with it and they never actually have any problems, but if you diagnose them with it, then you're putting a lot of limitations on their life.
Suddenly they've got a lot of they've got a lot of extra things to think about when we've got so many things to think about already. Okay, so this person was that before or after he knew that he had this condition?
One was before, one was after.
Right.
Yeah.
Did it make any difference, do you think, knowing about
He lives more aggressively now, if anything.
Lives more aggressively?
Yeah.
Okay.
He's like, I'm probably not going to reach 50, so I'm going to do everything.
Right, okay. Okay, so, I mean, it's an interesting one. It's good to know, real-world examples of... Come, give us a couple of minutes. Help us get the... So we've got Rick, we've got Ellie, what's her name?
Olivia.
Olivia, give us a couple of minutes. What are you going to go and see?
Polygenic risk score.
And that looks like some kind of weird syndrome, antler syndrome of somebody you've got on the...
Oh, yeah, I know, right?
What was it you're going to go and see?
Polygenic risk scores in the main stage.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
You can't compete with the main stage, I suppose. It's like that always in a festival, people rush off to the main stage.
I did used to work for Luton Culture though.
You really?
Yeah, I'm from Luton originally.
I tell you what, we're huge in Luton. We're really big. You might have seen us outside, in various places in the town centre.
I don't live there anymore. I used to work at Stockwood Park.
In where?
Stockwood Park.
No, we only know the centre because we just do gigs around. Yeah.
Hat factory and stuff like that.
Yeah. What's that?
The hat factory.
Yeah, exactly. The hat factory and all these kind of places. Luton, we're big in Luton. We tend to be big in places like Luton.
Yeah.
And what do you think about, what's Luton's sort of like feel on genomics? Do you think they know a lot about genomics there?
Don't think so.
No?
No, I don't think so. A lot of people from Luton are referred to GOSH. They're not really referred to L&D.
Right.
So I don't think the knowledge is particularly there.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people are afraid of it.
Okay, so there's maybe a fear.
Yeah.
Because one of the things we were talking about earlier on is this trust, and how important trust is when it comes to people entering into these things. They need to trust what's going on, but you can only really have a trust when you've got a certain amount of knowledge about what it's all about. I mean, have you got any thought? Olivia, don't let us stop. I'm going to be talking all day, so if you need to get to the main stage, don't wait for me to stop talking, because it's not going to happen, exactly. What do you think about this question of trust, Ellie?
I think almost when you know more, you trust less.
Right.
Because the less you know, the more you can just go to your doctor and believe everything that they say is the truth, when actually you work in medicine and you realise that a lot of stuff we don't really know the answer to. Or like there's, these perfect research studies aren't as organised as you think behind the scenes.
So in a way, opening the door to uncertainty is a door, that you can't really close once you realise that people are just kind of feeling around. They don't really know what they're doing, but that's science. Is it better to know less? That's in a way bad for our business and for Talkaoke, because we can't say, we need to educate and trust people if it's just only going to make things worse.
I agree. Yeah. I was thinking of the trust issue. I think also with the NHS, the whole worry with the media saying about it being, the things being talked about being sold off. Yeah. And people less likely to want to share new data. Yeah, with like a private company. Yeah, exactly. If it's good, they're worried it's being sold off, and then private company will get all your stuff. Yeah. What's that going to be used for? So I guess that might be a big step. Suddenly with especially all that's been happening recently, if that's something that people then said, we want to collect all this data, and they might go, hang on a second, this is alarm bells might start ringing. The kind of the way people are very sensitive to the way the NHS operates, and What do you think about that? Is that a factor, do you think, Ellie?
The way data is shared?
I mean, people are more trusting of the NHS if they think it's part of the government rather than a kind of franchise operation run by a commercial entity.
Yeah, I think definitely that's true. People are distrusting of big pharma and things like that. They don't want their data to be used to make money for those companies, but I think people will be more than happy for their data to be used for the benefit of people's health. So it's kind of difficult because those companies are creating cures for conditions, but they're charging you an arm and a leg for it. So but I think a lot of the things that we sign people up for now do have links to industry, and people do normally accept that because they think it still could be of benefit to other people.
I mean, is it a little bit of a kind of, are we a little bit too put off by the commercial, especially in this country where we've got this tradition of the NHS, are we a little bit too, paranoid in a way as a society about health companies that are not the NHS? Is that too controversial? I don't know.
controversial.
Yeah.
It's controversial here because there's a lot of commercial companies.
Obviously they're the people that have invited us here, but at the same time, you know, they need to know in a way, because like quite often we will go to Luton, for example, and the conversation won't be about genomics for sure, but it might be about, you know, I don't trust vaccines or something like that, or you know, there's a lot of paranoia out there, and certainly a lot of it's directed against the big pharma companies. They think that they're trying to sort of control the population, and they are quite paranoid. So, you know, it is in a way the only way to do it. I mean, it's not really about my opinion, but you know, then again, it's only three of us at the table. It's, you know, it's not. It's something I think that needs to be dealt with, because there's so much kind of like misinformation and sort of suspicion about what the motives of people are. When I'm pretty sure the people in this room, their motives are about trying to make the world a better place, or trying to help people, even if it is through selling their sequencing machine. I'm sure they believe in it, and they think it's going to make a difference. Anyway, enough of the speech. We need more people. Nothing wrong with you.
I'm going to go for some talk
give us a final thought before you go.
Final thought. More genetic counsellors.
I mean, is it? Sorry, you can't
more
just say
support
that.
for it.
How do you get? I mean, is it a job that anyone can do? How do you get into the job? And are there people ready and willing to do this job?
There's lots of people that want to do it, but there's very limited training in the UK at the moment for people, and even what the jobs at the moment in the UK are not that well supported, all of them. So there's a lot more that the NHS could be doing to train people in this career.
So the training's the bottleneck, really.
I think so, yeah.
How long does it take to train to be a genetic counsellor?
2 years normally, yeah.
Okay. Is it rigorous training?
Quite rigorous.
Yeah, okay.
But it's worth it.
All right, well, thanks very much. That's some more food for thought. How do we get more genetic counsellors? How do we get more people on this table as well is another question. Thank you, Ellie. Hopefully we'll see you later on. Anyway, so tell us, you said you're a vendor. What are you actually vending?
I'm from Pacific Biosciences. We sell a DNA sequencing instrument.
Okay, so what is
I think we can probably get my colleague, a different guy from that company over there to join as well.
Right, okay. Is that your company, or is that like a
No, he's from a services company, they would sell services on an instrument.
Yeah, and how's it been going so far? Have you got any interest?
Great, yeah. I mean, we've recently launched a new instrument, the Sequel 2.
Yeah.
I'll be talking about hi-fi reads later, which are high fidelity long reads. So that's 20 kb reads of high accuracy, and how they can be used. But yeah, it's going well. I've seen a few people I know, seen a few people I didn't know before. So yeah, going well.
I mean, are you based here in London, or?
No, I'm based in Essex, in fact.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Whereabouts in Essex? We're big in Essex, by the way. We're big in Basildon.
Yeah, I'm from Basildon.
Oh, really?
No, yeah, not that. Well, I don't live there now, but.
Do you know the Craylands estate?
I do, yeah.
We were there for 10 years.
Oh, right, I lived on the Craylands estate for a little bit, yeah.
Oh, really? Where are you probably...
I lived over Lichfields.
Oh, right, okay, yeah. Yeah, well, I mean, we've done gigs all around there, but in a different capacity. We weren't talking about genomics, we were talking mostly about West Ham United and antisocial, but I won't hold it against you. Antisocial behaviour as well was quite a big one there. But, I mean, maybe we can connect the two things to make it a bit more Essex. Has would the world of genomics have any effect on antisocial behaviour, maybe that's unfairly characterising Basildon. I don't know.
It's a tenuous link. You're then talking nature, nurture, and all that, right? So the answer is I don't know.
You don't know. Okay.
It's a case of upbringing.
Well, I mean, what about the industry? I mean, where you work, is it close? Is it going to provide jobs to the people of Basildon?
No. So PacBio are a US company based in Menlo Park, and they employ people in the field. They won't employ many more in Essex, I believe, because the coverage there is not needed.
Right, okay, so it's more of like a global thing.
Yeah.
Okay. Rick, have you got any comments on this so far?
Sure, no.
Okay, how are we going to make this into a compelling discussion that's going to bring all the people around and about?
People over here.
Yeah, I mean, how do we? We could do free coffees. These guys might get a bit upset though. Well, let's bring these people over. Hello, come and have a seat on the table of chat. We have got Ricky and Rick and Mikey. We need to get a conversation going. What's the name of your device?
Pacific Biosciences. Well, PacBio Sequel 2. I'll be over there.
Yeah. Have you heard of the PacBio Sequel 2? It's amazing. It's amazing. Yeah, it's amazing. It is basically the what do you call it? Tell us a bit more about it.
Well, it's a big box.
Yeah,
Does DNA sequencing.
Yeah.
Very high quality.
Can I ask you about cost? How much it costs?
Yeah, it's 420,000.
Right. Okay. For that, what do you get?
Get a big box, lots of cameras, lots of lasers.
Okay, and you get some data about some genetic data.
You'll get very high quality genetic data that'll allow you to see things that you've never been able to see before.
Right. And what do you put into it to get out this amazing data?
You put in isolated DNA.
Yeah.
You put in a little chip on a little chip called a smart cell.
Right. Okay.
Put it in the instrument, and the instrument does everything for you.
So you've got to isolate your DNA first.
You do, yes.
Have you got a machine to do that, or is that something else?
No, we're not a DNA isolation company, unfortunately.
Yeah.
You need high molecular weight DNA.
Right.
Many good companies out there can do that now. But yeah, it's once you've got your DNA, it's pretty simple.
But if I wanted to start up my own genomics lab, I need to isolate my DNA first before coming to you.
Yes.
And have you got anyone that you'd recommend?
No, not specifically.
Okay, you don't want to be,
we want to be unbiased.
Yeah.
Whatever gets you high molecular weight DNA, we don't mind. That's how simple the system is to use. Once you've got it, it goes in.
Okay, and is that another box that's similar to your box, or does it look different?
It will look different.
Yeah.
Yeah. Actually, no, they all look pretty similar, to be honest. Lab boxes are all pretty similar. I don't know who chose that kind of off-white colour for many boxes. But
I mean, that's something actually that because Rick and I went to art school, we know nothing about genetics or genomics, but we do know about designing bits of equipment like this Talkaoke table.
It's quite a cool table, by the way. That's why I pointed over.
Well, that's the whole point of the design. But
Does your chair swivel round?
Yeah, it does. Yeah, there we go. I can't actually go full circle, so I get tangled up in the cable. Come over, come and have a chat. We've got Ricky and Rick, but you don't have to be called Ricky or be from Billericay to come and. Oh, look, we've got another person.
I got roped in because I like the table.
Yeah.
All right.
So at the moment we're talking about the design of the more about the box than the stuff inside, because that's what we understand.
Right.
And why are all the boxes a kind of off-white, sort of slightly rounded, plasticky square? Could there be more done to the design of these machines to make them, like a Cadillac or something like that? Is the aesthetic right? That's the question. What's that?
Paint some go fast stripes on it or something like that.
Some stripes.
Yeah.
More stripes.
Yeah, maybe.
Okay. So what's your name?
Stuart. But you can call me Victor if that's easier.
Say that again?
Victor.
Victor. Okay. This person, come and have a seat. Have you got any boxes in your laboratory, and could they look better? That's what's your view on this? Do you work with this kind of?
No, I don't. I work more in bioinformatics, so I don't have any boxes.
But you surely what you kind of wrangle your data with, it comes in a box.
We have laptops.
Yeah. Oh, just laptops.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So you just have a laptop. You don't have like a big bank of servers or anything like that.
No.
No.
No, it's all cloud.
Okay, so it's all on the cloud. Yeah.
Computers were all like for ages were off-white boxes basically, and now they're all like shrunk down swish laptops.
Yeah. I mean, will it go the same way when it comes to your, I don't know, the Bio-Pacific 15?
No, probably not.
Do you think it will always be the off-white?
The last thing many companies think about with a system is what it looks like on the outside.
Yeah.
You want to make sure that it answers the right scientific question, and then keep costs down, because scientists are always on a budget. Yeah. Maybe one day paint them with go faster stripes, because I don't think that will cost too much.
Yeah.
But I don't think systems will be radically designed for aesthetics.
Yeah. Have you got any stickers on your laptop?
No.
No, you're not.
Not at all.
That puts a
No.
lot of stickers on.
No.
You're like a clean.
I'm very clean.
Yeah. Okay. Because I'm just wondering about the customization of your. Do people send?
Well, we were actually talking about every time a customer orders one, because they're about 400,000, skinning it in how they want, because doing a printed skin is not that costly for a square box.
Right.
But that's something that maybe we'll look for in the future.
So each one's got its own.
One could come out as like Batman or something like that.
Yeah.
However you'd want.
I mean, if it's the same price, obviously people would rather have a Batman. If they like Batman, that is, they might go for Spider-Man or something like that. I mean, if you were going to, I was just trying to relate it to, was it Victor? To Victor. If you were going to customize I know you're like a clean sort of shiny laptop, but if you were going to customize it, what kind of skin would you put on your laptop? It could be anything.
No idea actually. I never really thought about it.
You're
to be
more
honest.
functional. You don't really care.
I'm very functional.
Yeah. Okay. And
we do actually customize our the platforms that we give our users access to, so they can put their own logos and that kind of stuff. But they're also not really very creative. They just put their logos and their company colors. It's not like flashy or anything.
They don't do any fancy animations or anything.
No fireworks.
What about you? Would you customize your laptop or?
Yeah, if I had a choice, I guess. Yeah. Although mine isn't customized at the moment.
What would it look like ideally?
I haven't really thought that far yet. Okay.
I'm thinking because this is the important, urgent question on the table that we're trying to get people, interested in. I mean, I guess the thing is, it's all about information, and it's very dry. But with a bit, could it be animated with the fancy graphics or be it your web application or your box? Would it make a difference, or is it actually the functional aesthetics of knowledge kind of almost deter people from having that sort of customization and that kind of swishness? They prefer a kind of very dry, kind of academic presentation.
I think the people who use our system, they just want the answer at the end. Right?
Yeah.
And I think with perhaps bioinformatic platforms, it's the same sort of thing.
Yeah.
I guess a lot of it is the coding on a black background.
Yeah.
Or where you make it a bit more user friendly, I guess.
Yeah.
But you're after the end result, not what's in the middle.
Right. Okay. So it's a results-based industry, I suppose, isn't it? Yeah.
Let me ask you a question. Did you select this table? Was this your choice?
Yeah. Well, definitely. Yes. I mean, we designed and built it ourselves, and it's designed. I could go on for ages about it, but it's actually very light because it's made from fiberglass. But the first ones we made with a kind of carbon fiber look, and the issue with that is it looked too light. So we've got this kind of metallic look to make it feel heavier than it actually is. So that's the outer bit, and this kind of pink bit is all about that kind of fireside sort of glow that attracts people in. So this kind of pinky, ideally we want a slightly more orangey light than this, but the pinky orangey light actually brings people in, and that. So, but in our case, and
the light didn't do it for me.
There was a person in the middle. The shirt's also important as well, obviously. But it's all about. In our case, the aesthetics do matter, but I'm wondering if somehow they matter, but in a kind of reverse way, when it comes to DNA sequencing or bioinformatics. That it's almost like not having an aesthetic is the aesthetic.
It matters, right? Aesthetic is something clean and functional is also aesthetic.
Yeah.
And it still can look nice if you use the right fonts. You use pleasant colors in your visualizations and those kinds of things. So of course you think about those.
Yeah.
But you're not going to change your visualizations just to make them look nice, because eventually it's about the result.
Yeah. I mean, what kind of results are you getting? I know nothing about this, and Rick doesn't either. So, what are the results that you're getting from these, from your machine and from your platform? Can I ask you first?
Yeah, sure. So we basically deliver the platform. So we install open source platforms at our clients and do some customizations, load the data in. But the research, that's what they do themselves. So the results that they get, of course, that's all company secret, and we don't know anything about those.
Can you give us a sort of generic answer, sort of?
Yeah. So depending on the platform you're talking about, it's either things like what are the molecular characteristics of a particular type of cancer, what are relations between diseases and targets, between variants like specific mutations, and diseases in terms of prevalence and in terms of mechanism. Those are the type of questions that they're interested in.
And you can do that just with bioinformatics. You can find out these things.
Well, to some extent, you can find hints, right? So you can compute like this is likely interesting, but you still have to go into the lab and validate whether it's actually the case.
So it's going to back that with some experimentation, some work in little petri dishes or something like that. What about you, Ricky?
So the Sequel 2 provides DNA or RNA sequences that you would perhaps feed into platforms and pipelines that they would make.
Right.
So we produce a different type of sequencing to say short read sequencing. So it's long read. So normally short read sequences are 2 by 150. Our long read sequences we now aim for somewhere between 15 and 20,000 bases. All very high accuracy, and you can do different things with that. So you can link longer stretches of DNA together and answer different questions. But we don't do the downstream analysis. So the downstream analysis are the things that his users would do. We provide the input data.
Okay, so you've got much longer sequences that you can that are all already kind of like it's just one long sequence rather than having to sort of like jigsaw puzzle it together.
They're in a line next to each other.
Okay.
And that makes things like genome assembly a lot easier. Things like phasing of SNPs in disorders a lot easier. It just improves what you can do with your DNA sequences.
And do you think you'll go even longer with the Mark III machines? Will it be?
Good question.
Is there a limit to how long a piece of DNA you can?
So there are a couple of limitations. So one is the ability to actually get long DNA out of anything, because as it's a damaging process. DNA degrades over time. Trying to get that high molecular weight DNA, which you mentioned, is always going to be difficult. Then there are restrictions on the sequencing itself. So the kind of sequencing we use, there's a polymerase which sequences and you record that sequence. The lasers used to record the sequencing, basically.
What are the lasers doing?
They excite phospholink nucleotides. So there's little light signatures attached to DNA bases as they incorporate. And you shine the laser on that exact point, it fluoresces, and that's how you say, that colour is that base, that colour's that base.
Okay.
So that stuff it's fancy on the inside, and it doesn't have to be fancy on the outside, right? If you have lasers, then you don't need speed stripes.
Just let a little bit of laser leak out, so it looks a bit more flash. Do you know what I mean?
Well, they're super high powered lasers, really quite dangerous. You don't want to do that.
It's dangerous. Okay. So, but isn't sometimes dangerous is a bit more cool, isn't it?
Yeah, a little. I mean, I think it's cool because you get really long stretches of DNA that are very high accuracy, which is nothing else can do that. So only our box does that, basically. It's opening up new areas of research and letting people re-evaluate some things that they couldn't do before.
Right. Okay. I mean, is that the normal way that the DNA sequence is read with the laser beams? Is that like?
So there are different methods. And one of the main ones with short read sequencing is with fluorescence.
Right.
So with SBS, sequencing by synthesis. So it's a similar sort of concept, but with the PacBio instrument, you do it in a circular fashion. It's on native DNA. With the other method, it's on a kind of much smaller scale, but then much larger in parallel. So, it's with lasers still. There are alternative methods such as measuring pH and looking at things going through pores, but it's each to their own. It depends on the aimed genomics of your project, the kind of sequencing that you would choose.
Okay, and I guess you listen to what the people that buy the machines want and try to
so for PacBio, we think you should just use our technology for everything. But then, different scientists will say, I want to use that technology, I want to use that technology. So.
I mean, one of the questions that's been on the table earlier on, because earlier on we had mostly sort of clinical people that are working, with real healthcare, and their questions are actually quite different, I think, to you guys. It's much more about research, as they want to get, genomics medicine into the mainstream, but their issues are completely different. It's much more about what is the kind of ethical impact of this information. How can it actually be used by just ordinary hospitals, doctors, nurses, this kind of thing. How do we get that infrastructure in place? So it's a very different kind of conversation, but is there an overlap between what you guys do and what these people want?
Want to go?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Well, I think what they want is to make the best decision for the patient, right?
Yeah.
And if they can use more data to do that, genomics data or any other type of data that's helpful, then they would use it and they would be interested in that, right?
But I mean, is it at the moment a little bit too technical for that kind of thing?
So we sell for research use only, but that doesn't mean the box is used for research only, and things that are found via research are then translated into the clinic. So a lot of these short read platforms and Sanger sequencing have been around for, Sanger sequencing is 25, 30 years, maybe even longer in fact, it's like 90s. And the kind of decisions that are made off the back of that took a long time to actually fall into the clinic. So what we're doing now may be in a research theme, but in 10 years' time could be something that a doctor's using on the front line.
I mean, would it be good for you guys to sort of expand the business in that sense, that if every GP surgery wants a
so we would, we would love to, and that's the kind of thing that Genomics England and UK Biobank, that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to better integrate genomic data into the clinic, into the decision-making process. Eventually, I think that will be the case. It's a slow process. You've got to make sure that what you don't want to do, and what the big thing is you don't want to make the wrong decision.
So, this is one of the things that people are talking about. It's like trust is so important at that level, on that side, because people, if they're going to enter into this thing, they need to be able to trust the system. So if something goes wrong, that's a lot worse than not really knowing. Like building the trust slowly, is easy, but you can easily lose the trust with one big mistake. So it's about, I guess, that slow, gradual thing. Their question, their worry is much more about the kind of the public understanding, the ethics, just the use of this kind of technology as a practice for clinicians. And in a way, we're looking now at it from a different side, which is
research side is easy.
the
ethical constraints aren't the same. So it's fine. Much simpler.
So you like it that way? Okay. What about you, Victor? Do you want to get involved in all these questions about how this stuff is used, or would you rather just build the system and let people use it how they want?
I'm definitely more of a person who would build a system and let people decide how they want to use it. In the clinic they have to use validated systems. Doesn't mean that they cannot consult a system that's not validated. As long as there's also a validated system where they can kind of verify their findings. So sometimes you can make it easy to find what they need, and then they can go and verify it in a
different way.
Exactly, and then use it to drive a decision in terms of treatment.
I mean, I guess that is the way ahead. But one of the questions I think that comes up is this question about certainty and uncertainty. Like the public like everything to be certain. They don't like what we were talking about earlier on is this problem that a lot of these things are risk factors that you might be able to identify, and that's a bit troubling for people to have this kind of risk they may or may not have. Can the research side kind of home in on certainty a bit, or help the clinicians to make things a bit more certain? Is it just going to come with more data? What do people think?
Well, more data is good.
Yeah. Well, you're about to say that.
Yeah.
I remember for the last Genomics festival, we had all the bioinformatics people around, and they're just all going on about data. And
it is a data-driven business.
Yeah.
It's it's how you analyse the data now is getting more and more important. Well, it was always important, but sequencing is almost becoming more straightforward.
Yeah.
So with platforms like PacBio and short read sequencers, they've been around for quite some time. The sequencing is established, but now the questions you can ask, people are thinking about them, and then the ways you analyse that data is, it's a good time to be a bioinformatician, really.
I mean, how is that? I mean, is it too much? Are you going to just blow my head off if you start talking about how this field is developing? I mean, is it something that an ordinary person can understand, the bioinformatics and how you analyse the data?
Well, bioinformatics is very broad, right? It's like talking about, well, it's kind of a part of IT in a way, but IT can be anything, right? You use it everywhere, and by IT it's the same. Within life sciences, you can use it for a lot of different things. You can talk about like managing medical records, and you're just talking about keeping track of data that's coming in a hospital. That's one thing. You can talk about analysis. You can talk about visualization. You can talk about the whole pre-processing pipelines. So from the raw reads that come from a machine to actual variant calls, and then from there you have to do the analysis again, right? So there's so many things out there, and then all of these things they also apply to different types of data, right? So you have your sequencing data. Will tell you, okay, this blueprint of this person, where are kind of the differences between two different people, right? But it's not the whole blueprint is used in every cell. It's really selective. So like in some cells, a particular part will be used a lot, and other parts they won't be used. So you also need to know, okay, which parts are being used. So that's the expression of the DNA. But after that happens, there's a lot of other transformations as well, which are specific to specific cell types or phases in the development. You have a lot of genes that you've used when you were basically a fetus in the womb, but you don't use anymore, because you don't need them. They're turned off, right?
So there's a lot of information out there about how the genes interact. We don't necessarily know. Is that something that the data can tell us, or is it something you need to find out in the laboratory?
Both. I mean, the data comes from the laboratory, but what are you going to do in the laboratory? You decide based on the data, right? So based on the data, you see, well, maybe this gene is implicated in this disease based on statistics, and then you want to check, right? So what are you going to do? You try to make a model for the disease. So you get like diseased cells or a diseased animal which has like similar symptoms, and you try to cure that. And if you succeed, then you try to move that to the next level. So it's both. It's really a continuous interaction between the lab and bioinformatics. And of course, in addition to that, you also have in the labs, as you can see here on the floor, you have a lot of robotics now. So you have robots that do all the work for you. But of course, those robots, they need to be programmed as well. So there's also IT. Then you have sample management within a lab. You don't want to swap two samples from two different patients, because that's not good.
I can see the problem with that.
So exactly. So there's a lot of IT going on everywhere, and
I mean, my question is more about the kind of, let's say, the sci-fi stuff about, the artificial intelligence somehow managing to move our knowledge forward about how these different proteins interact with each other, or, how the genes kind of actually turn into the development. Oh, we nearly got two other people there. All these kind of things. Will artificial intelligence actually? How far is it gone along? Will it actually be able to sort of almost make those insights, or do you still need someone that really understands that data to actually understand what's going on there?
You still need someone to understand the data.
Yeah.
So it's like artificial intelligence now is basically like a really fancy algorithm that still takes some numbers as input and gets some numbers as output, right? You still need to interpret the numbers, and you still need to figure out, like, okay, why do I get what I get? Do I get that because, the data is a bit weird, or is this an actual result?
Yeah.
And then, of course, you have to validate it in a lab. That's always at the end of this.
So the data can give you a hint about where to look, but you still need someone to understand what all those numbers, millions and billions of numbers churning out, actually mean. I mean, do you sometimes get over 20,000 base pairs a go? Do you sometimes get overwhelmed by the numbers, Ricky, or just you're not bothered by them?
It's not me involved in that part.
Yeah. You just think, okay, we're gonna.
So we make it easier by having the majority of those 20,000 bases error-free.
Yeah.
So that's a big important part. So some of the problems with previous sequencing methods is that maybe you could do long reads, but they would have errors every now and then.
Yeah, and you would think those errors were significant.
Yeah, you'd think, is that error a change in this person? Is that error a change in expression? Is that error part of the instrument? Is it something you did in the preparation? But we've now come to a point where this 20,000 base pairs, I think, probably see something like 8 to 10 errors in the entire stretch. That's only new, by the way, so I'm going to again talk about this later. And we're trying to make things like this downstream portion simpler, but as mentioned, there are so many different data points to look at, because DNA is just one part of it. That's the genetic code, but how is that expressed? Does it translate into a viable protein? Does that protein do anything? Is there too much of that protein, too little of it? And then there's methylation on top. There's all sorts of things you can look at. And we only look at one portion. So it's for, as I said, the bioinformaticians, and maybe AI one day. Although, like you mentioned, it's just a very complex algorithm at the moment. Will help with these decisions, but I think for quite some time there might still need to be someone right on the end, especially of the complex cases.
So the AI in a way is just like a more complex scientific calculator, basically, that sort of helps you understand, get a bit further and do a bit of the kind of spade work with the statistics, but it's still just statistics, basically. It's not like a super intelligent being that's going to take over the planet or anything like that. It's basically what you're saying, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay. Which is it's probably better for us, but less interesting to talk about on the Talkaoke table. If it was, the spectre of a super intelligent being taking over the planet.
I mean, it might happen.
It might happen.
You don't know, do you? Right? Until someone's invented it.
Yeah.
You just don't know, but right now, from what we can see, it's a case of it's just a complex algorithm. Numbers in, numbers out.
Yeah. I mean, are you worried, Rick, about artificial intelligence, or you don't really think about it?
I like it in sci-fi films, but I don't think I'm worried about it at the moment, no.
No? Okay. Well, it's reassuring as well to know that, that it's not really got that far. I mean, do you think artificial intelligence can ever reach that singularity, as they like to call it?
That's a very good question. My guess is that most people are too optimistic about this.
Yeah.
And I also don't believe in singularity as like this one single event where the machine is going to be smarter than us, and then boom, it's going to improve itself and improve itself, and there you go, right? I think that's bullshit.
Yeah.
Because in a sense, singularity is already happening, because a computer can do millions of calculations I cannot do, right? So in that sense, it's smarter than I am. In another sense, there's a lot of stuff that I can do that a computer cannot do, right?
Yeah.
So the singularity is not like a single point in time and then you can say, okay, it's smarter, because it's already smarter in certain tasks, right?
Yeah.
Maybe there will be more tasks, but I think really to get to... You really need to kind of complete paradigm shift before you can get to human intelligence. Now it's basically just fancy algorithms.
Yeah. Okay. So something in a way fundamentally different about human intelligence. Give us a final, Ricky. Thanks for
the warm up.
We're here all day and all day tomorrow. But both of you, give us I want a final thought before you go. Give us the final thought.
People should buy PacBio SQL 2.
Okay. It's a bargain. It's a bargain. Final thought?
People should buy into open source because it's even cheaper.
Okay, well, that's a whole other conversation. And also something that we know about open source technology. I guess that's the next session. Rick, that's over and done with.